Hey everybody, let's review last week's reading skill. You were supposed to be able to correctly restate the question when writing an answer, give your answer to the question, find and correctly use a quote from the text, and 4, explain how that quote proves your answer is correct. If you are watching this video, then the bottom 2 skills are the ones that we're going to focus on. In fact, you did perfectly fine restating the question and giving your answer. It's being able to quote correctly and being able to explain why that quote proves your answer. Those are the 2 things that I want us to focus on. All right, let's talk a little bit about how to quote correctly. When you quote from the text, there's 3 things that I want you to have as part of your answer. Number 1, you should have some sort of sentence stem. A sentence stem is something that looks like this. It could be one of these 3. The text said, in the text it said, or the author wrote. Or it can even be a combination of these. The purpose of a sentence stem is to let the person who's reading your answer know that you're about to share something from the text. It's just plain good writing. The second thing you need to have after the sentence stem is a comma. That comma's purpose is to separate this part, the sentence stem, from what's coming afterwards, the quote. Again, that's a rule in writing when we quote things. It's a rule in writing when we use dialogue that comma has to go in between who's saying it or where it's coming from and the actual quote. The third thing you need to have is the actual quote from the text. When you do that, you need to start the quote with quotation marks. Everything needs to be here, so you're going to write the entire quote, all of the words. Whatever punctuation mark is at the end of that sentence will go there, and then you're going to put end quotation marks here. So again, notice that the words or the quote that's being used goes inside, punctuation mark goes inside, and it starts with a quote and ends with a quote. Again, that's part of the rules of writing. That is how we use dialogue, and that is how we use quotes. All right, so let's put this all together. Last Friday, you took an inference quiz where you read a short passage about Tom, and how Tom was upset that his teacher had taken away this item, and you had to make an inference. What did you think the item was? Again, you all understood it. You got the answer correct. In fact, you probably said, and you did say, that the item you thought that the teacher took was a cell phone. You're absolutely right. I made the same inference. There were a lot of clues in that passage to support that answer. So good for you. You gave the right answer, and you also restated the question, so no problems there whatsoever. Again, today we're focusing on these bottom 2 skills right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my answer, how I would have responded to that question. Again, here was the question, the 2 questions that you were being asked to answer, and here's how I answered it. I started by restating and answering. Tom's teacher took away his phone. And here's the part that I want you to really focus on. I started with my sentence stem. The text said, sorry about that. Then I added a comma. I put my beginning quotation marks. And the quote that I used was this: he would never intentionally turn it on in class and break the school rules. That sentence ended with a period, so I put a period there, and then I wrapped this up with end quotation marks. That is correctly quoting from the text. I continued by answering this question: what evidence supports your inference and explaining it. So I started by saying, I think this because this is really, really important, because this shows the reader that it's your turn. You're doing the thinking. You're telling me why that quote proved to you that it was a phone she took away from him. Here's what I said. I think this because you are not supposed to have or turn on phones in school. In fact, it is a rule, I could say, at our school, not to have these on in class. So I'm showing my thinking. I'm not just saying, I think this because I do. That doesn't show my thinking. So think about it this way. What happens here is you kind of breaking it down, you sort of pretending that whoever is reading this doesn't understand anything, and you have to explain it very, very clearly. How does this quote, whatever quote you used, how did it help you answer the question? So what I want you to do is, now that we're done, you're going to go back to Friday's inference quiz, and you're going to find your original answer and the comments or the feedback that I left you. By now, I've probably already given you an index card with your name on it. What I want you to do is, on that index card, I want you to rewrite your answer. Please don't change your restating in your answer. Again, you did it just fine. Please don't even change the quote that you used. Just because I used this quote does not mean that that was the only quote in the text that would work. In fact, there were many of them. So unless I've talked to you, your quote is probably just fine. Why I'm asking you to redo this is because, one, you either didn't correctly use the quote, you might have missed one of these three things, or you didn't really explain how that quote proves your answer. Again, there's nothing wrong with the quote that you used, so please don't change it. Please don't change it to this quote. This is just one of many quotes you could have used. So on that index card, you're going to rewrite your answer using what I've just explained needs to happen. If you're doing this at home, you're going to need to type your answer in an email and send it to me. However, if this did not help you, if you still are struggling with how to quote correctly, or if you're not quite sure what I mean about explaining or proving your answer, please stop this video, come find me, shout my name, let me know that you need help so that we can go over this before you correct your answer. All right, that's all you need to do. Let me know if you have questions.